It was late at night in Rome when everything finally collapsed. The lights of the city were fading behind the car window, and CanYaman sat in complete silence, his phone in his hand, staring at the last message he would ever send to her. It was short, almost too short for the weight it carried. "Please don't forget me." Those 4 words would stay in his mind forever. Because they weren't just a goodbye, they were the last fragile bridge between 2 souls who had once believed in eternity. Just hours earlier, Can and Demet had been together for what was supposed to be a calm, final conversation. No cameras. No press. No expectations. Just 2 people who had lived through an intense love that had burned too brightly. The same fire that had made millions fall in love with them had now consumed everything. Demet's eyes were filled with a mixture of love and exhaustion. She tried to speak, but her voice trembled. "We can't keep hurting each other, Can. Maybe it's time to stop pretending we can fix this." Can didn't answer. He just looked at her, the same way he had looked at her years ago on the set of her Kenzie cuss, when everything between them had felt real and new. He wanted to say 1,000 things, to beg her to stay, to tell her that every heartbeat still whispered her name. But all he managed to whisper was, "Please don't forget me." When Demet turned away, he realized that no fame, no success, no award could fill the emptiness that moment left behind. Because behind the smile of the actor, there was a man who had lost something he never truly stopped loving. That night, Rome felt colder than ever. And for the first time in years, CanYaman, the man everyone thought was unbreakable, cried in silence. The next morning, the world continued as if nothing had happened. Fans flooded social media with pictures, edits, and romantic tributes. "They're perfect together. They'll find their way back." But the truth, the raw painful truth, was that Can hadn't slept a single minute. He had reread their old messages, thousands of them, searching for the moment when things had changed. When love had turned into distance. When the warmth in her eyes had turned into polite silence. In his Rome apartment, surrounded by walls filled with awards and scripts, he felt smaller than ever. He played one of their old behind-the-scenes clips on his phone. The laughter, the glances, the moments of stolen affection, everything looked so pure. And he whispered to himself, almost like a prayer, "Where did we lose ourselves, Demet?" He remembered the days in Istanbul when they used to dream about freedom. When fame was still new and full of promise. They had promised each other something back then, not with words, but with looks. That no matter what happened, they would never forget where it all started. And yet, here they were. 2 souls lost in different cities, under the same sky, pretending they were okay. Can opened Instagram and scrolled through hundreds of comments tagging both their names. The world still believed they were destined. But destiny, he thought, doesn't always mean together forever. Sometimes destiny means meeting the right person at the wrong time. And so, instead of replying to the rumors, instead of posting something cryptic, he just looked at her photo one last time, and whispered again, "Please don't forget me." It wasn't a demand. It wasn't even a request. It was the quiet hope of a man who knew that love, real love, doesn't always need to last forever to be unforgettable. The 3rd day was always the hardest. The adrenaline of the breakup had faded, and reality now moved with quiet precision, cutting him in places he didn't know existed. Rome was loud outside, but inside his apartment, the world had no sound. Just the hum of the refrigerator, the faint city traffic, and the echo of a voice he could no longer reach. He tried to work. He opened a script, read 3 lines, and closed it. He brewed coffee, forgot to drink it, then stared at the cooling surface as if answers might float to the top. He picked up his phone to call her, then put it down, reminding himself that love without respect turns into begging, and he had promised himself he would never beg. Not even for her. Especially not for her. He opened notes and began to type the message he wouldn't send. "Demet, I know you don't want to keep repeating the same conversation. I know we both lost control somewhere between our schedules and our fears. I know I wasn't easy. But I was real. Every part of me was real." He paused. He remembered the Istanbul dawns, when they ran lines in tiny corners of the set, laughing over missed cues and inside jokes. He remembered a night in a parked car near the Bosphorus, where they talked about everything except the thing that mattered most. He remembered her silence after an argument in Rome, how it said 1,000 things without saying anything at all. He kept typing, "I don't blame you. That's the painful part, I can't blame you for protecting your heart. I only ask for one thing. When the noise dies down, when the headlines change, the rumors fade, and the photos are old, remember the parts of us that were bigger than all this." He deleted it. He typed again, "Please don't forget me." He deleted that, too. It felt like asking the sun to stay longer in the sky. Some things don't listen to requests. He put on a jacket and stepped outside. The air was crisp, the kind that stings a little and wakes you up. A couple walked past him, laughing about something small and silly. He envied them, not the relationship, but the simplicity. Then his phone buzzed. A notification from a fan edit, a montage of their scenes, a soft piano underneath, a caption that read, "Some loves never end, they just change shape." He watched the clip to the end and realized why it hurt so much. Their story hadn't failed because it wasn't true. It failed because truth alone isn't always enough. Timing matters. Distance matters. Pride, fear, and the constant pressure of being watched, those matter, too. He breathed out and whispered the sentence he had written and erased 100 times, "Please don't forget me." Not as a plea, but as a seal. A way of saying, we existed. We mattered. Even if we couldn't last. He put the phone back in his pocket and started walking. He didn't know where his feet were taking him, only that movement felt better than standing still in a room full of ghosts. That evening, the city's glow turned gold over the Tiber. Ken sat by the river, away from the noise, where no one called him the star, the heartthrob, or the idol. Just a man and his thoughts. The phone was in his hand again, as if it held the last fragile thread connecting him to what once was. But she hadn't called. Not even a text. He opened her profile, just for a second. A new post. A quote in Turkish, "Time doesn't heal everything, it just teaches you how to hide the pain." It hit him like a punch to the chest. She was speaking to someone, maybe to him, maybe to herself, but the message was clear. She was hurting too. He typed a reply in his mind, not on the screen, "I see you. I feel you. Even if we never speak again." A child ran past him, laughing, and dropped a red balloon. He picked it up, handed it back, and for a moment smiled. That innocence, so simple, so pure, reminded him of how their story began. Two people drawn together not by fame but by laughter, curiosity, and a spark that neither of them understood until it was too late. He thought of the night before their first scene together. Demet had been nervous, pacing, her script trembling in her hand. He had told her, "Don't worry, just look into my eyes, and the rest will come naturally." And it did. The chemistry had been real, not acting, not pretending. It was the start of something that would follow them both, even when they tried to escape it. Now, years later, he still couldn't escape it. He could play new roles, travel to new countries, meet new faces, but there would always be that one memory, her hand in his, her laugh echoing between takes, the moment when love didn't feel like a burden. He took a deep breath and whispered softly, "Please don't forget me." The wind carried the words away, across the river, into the night. As the moon rose, he realized that maybe forgetting wasn't what he feared most. Maybe what truly terrified him was being remembered as the man who couldn't stay. Because love, for all its beauty, sometimes demands distance to survive. And maybe this silence, this space, was its final act of mercy. Ken stood up, looked at the sky, and smiled sadly. Somewhere, he hoped, she was looking at the same moon. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into a strange routine of pretending. Ken learned how to smile again, not because he was happy, but because the world expected him to. Every interview, every red carpet, every camera flash demanded the same image, the confident, charming actor who had everything under control. But behind every flash, behind every applause, there was a quiet ache that refused to fade. He had become a master of hiding it. He'd walk into a studio, joke with the crew, deliver his lines perfectly, and then, the moment the lights went off, silence would swallow him whole. The truth was simple. Fame had taught him how to perform, but not how to heal. One night, during a break from filming, someone on set asked casually, "Do you ever miss her?" He froze. The question wasn't meant to hurt, it was innocent curiosity, but it hit like glass shattering in his chest. He smiled politely and said, "No, that was a long time ago." But his hands, trembling slightly, told a different story. Later, back in his dressing room, he looked in the mirror and whispered to his reflection, "You liar." Because yes, he did miss her. He missed her laughter that filled a room effortlessly. He missed the way she could read his mood just by looking into his eyes. He missed how she never treated him like a celebrity, but like a man, imperfect, impulsive, but real. Sometimes, late at night, he'd replay their old interviews, the way they'd steal glances and laugh between words. The world had called it acting, chemistry, marketing. But for him, it had been truth. A truth that had been too big to fit into fame, too wild to survive under the spotlight. He picked up his phone and scrolled through their last messages again. Her final words were simple, "Take care of yourself, Can." He read it like scripture, over and over, until he could almost hear her voice. And though he never replied, he wanted to. He wanted to tell her, "I'm trying. But every day without you feels like learning to breathe underwater." But he didn't. Because some messages aren't meant to be answered. Some are meant to linger, like perfume in an empty room, like a heartbeat in silence. He put his phone down, turned off the lights, and lay back on his bed. Outside, the city of Rome buzzed with life. But inside, one thought echoed endlessly in his mind, the same words he had once whispered in that quiet room, "Please don't forget me." Because even if she did, he knew he never would. It was a Sunday morning when the letter arrived, handwritten, on plain white paper, with no return address. His assistant handed it to him between meetings, not realizing what it was. It looked ordinary, almost insignificant. But when Ken saw the handwriting, his heart stopped. He knew it instantly. The curves of the letters, the delicate slant, it was hers. Demet's. For a long time, he didn't open it. He just held it, staring at it like something sacred, something fragile that could disappear if he blinked. The world around him blurred. The voices, the noise, the busy life of a man who had everything except what he truly wanted. Finally, with trembling hands, he unfolded the paper. It began simply, "Can, I don't know if writing this is a mistake, but there are things I never said. And if I don't say them now, I never will." His eyes moved across the page like they were searching for oxygen. "You once told me not to forget you. I haven't. I don't think I ever will. Sometimes I see your face in the strangest places, in an ad, in a reflection, in someone else's laugh, and for a second, everything stops. I try to move on, but memories don't ask for permission to stay. They just do." He stopped reading and exhaled shakily. It was as if she had been inside his mind this whole time. We were never perfect, but we were real. And maybe that's why it hurts so much. Because what we had wasn't fake. It wasn't written in a script. It was us, messy, beautiful, impossible us. I don't know what the future holds for you, but I hope when you look back, you don't see pain. I hope you remember the laughter, the stolen moments, and the way we made each other feel alive. I will never forget you, Can. Not really. He couldn't read the rest. Tears blurred the ink, mixing his emotions with her words. He sat there in silence for a long time, the letter resting on his lap like a fragile piece of the past that had somehow survived the storm. After a while, he folded it carefully and placed it inside a small box on his nightstand, the same box where he kept a photo of them, a bracelet she had once left behind, and the last script they had worked on together. For the first time in months, he smiled. A sad smile, yes, but real. Because those words, her words, had given him something he hadn't felt in a long time: peace. He walked to the balcony, looking over the city, and whispered softly into the morning air, "You didn't forget me." The sunlight touched his face, warm and steady. It felt like an answer. That night, Ken couldn't sleep. Not because of sadness, but because for the first time in months, he finally felt something that wasn't pain. It was strange, quiet, almost fragile, a feeling he hadn't recognized in a long time: relief. He sat by the window, the city lights of Rome shimmering in the distance, the letter lying open on the table beside him. Every line of Demet's words played over in his mind, not like a wound reopening, but like a gentle reminder that love doesn't have to end bitterly. It can end softly, too, like a candle that burns out slowly, still warm even after the flame disappears. He picked up his phone and looked at her name in his contacts list. His thumb hovered over the screen for a long moment. Should he call? Should he answer the silence she had broken with that letter? His heart whispered yes. His pride whispered no. And so, he did nothing, just stared at her name, feeling the old ache, but this time without anger. Because now, the distance between them wasn't full of regret. It was full of meaning. He opened the message box and started typing, slowly, "Demet. I read your letter. Thank you. For not forgetting. For remembering the good parts. For everything." Then he stopped, deleted the words, and smiled sadly. No, he thought, this didn't need a reply. Some stories don't need a new chapter. They just need to be cherished for what they were. Instead, he turned his phone face down and went to his piano, the same piano he hadn't touched in months. His fingers hovered over the keys, unsure at first, then slowly finding the melody that had lived in his chest all along. It was soft, melancholic, beautiful, a song without lyrics, made entirely of memory. As he played, flashes of their past filled his mind: her laughter during rehearsals, the way she'd look at him when the director called cut, the day they said goodbye at the airport, pretending it was temporary. He closed his eyes and let the music carry it all. The love, the loss, the longing, until it didn't hurt anymore. When the final note faded into silence, he whispered into the darkness, "If you ever hear this melody somewhere, you'll know it's me." Outside, the first light of dawn began to rise, turning the sky from black to blue. And for the first time since that night, he felt ready to live again. Not to replace her, not to forget her, but to carry her gently, like a memory that no longer burned, only glowed. He stood, looked out the window, and said softly, not in pain, but in peace, "Please don't forget me, but it's okay if you do." Because now, he finally understood, love doesn't always ask to be remembered. Sometimes, it just asks to have existed. Weeks passed, and the air of Rome began to change. The heat of summer had softened into the calm breath of autumn, and the city, alive as ever, seemed to move on, just as people do. But somewhere between the noise and the silence, Ken had found something close to balance. He started running again in the mornings. No phone, no entourage, no headlines waiting for him outside the door. Just the sound of his footsteps echoing on the cobblestones, the rhythm of his heart finally steady again. People greeted him, took photos, smiled, but inside, he was somewhere else. Somewhere quiet, somewhere free. He'd stopped checking her profile, stopped waiting for signs. But once, one unexpected morning, a short clip appeared on his feed. Demet, in a behind-the-scenes video, laughing uncontrollably during filming. The same laugh that used to echo through his own days. For a moment, time stopped. Then, instead of pain, a soft smile crossed his face. He whispered to himself, "You're happy. That's all I ever wanted." Later that evening, while packing for a new project abroad, he opened the small wooden box on his nightstand. Inside were fragments of a life that once felt like forever: the letter, the bracelet, the photo. He touched them one by one, not with longing, but gratitude. He placed the letter back inside and closed the box. But before locking it away, he took a pen and wrote on the lid, in quiet handwriting, "Please don't forget me." Then he paused, smiled, and added one more line underneath, "But it's okay if you do." Because now, those words no longer came from a place of fear. They came from acceptance. He had learned that love doesn't disappear when it ends, it transforms. It becomes part of who you are, part of the way you see the world, part of the silence between two hearts that once beat in the same rhythm. Before turning off the lights, he stood on the balcony one last time.